Tysdal. My presentation today is called A Mad Look at Madness, Mad Multimedia, and me. I was given the opportunity to share some of these more multimedia works, so I took it as an opportunity to sort of say kind of how and why did I end up writing poetry like this. I have my lovely assistant over here. So this first one is called A Mad Fold-In Poem. You, this mucky fire slathered in my mind's frame, are as committed to me as artists are to art. At times, your voice is constant. Kill yourself, kill yourself, kill yourself. Fist punching clay with the aim to make me nothing more than punched clay. Other times, you're a cinema in my skull, screening me mangled. One leg auger mauled, hand vice crushed, eye pencil blinded to life. End it, you say, in the scene you loop, the cinema's walls, with a bullet burst. At parties, you shape a sinister play from others' glances. Hate him, idiot, fool. When I bloom a sun all alight and rising, you flatten my lift into lines on a page like Jaffe's in the back of Mad. You fold it over, and now the rise is the wound from a wing cleaved and then gilded. The bloom's 1,000-foot fall. The sun, a drain. Yet with each step, the unrelenting chorus of you circles round me. Another chorus surfaces to surround you. The line of sheltering trees artists grow, loamy and ablaze against your gale. The melodies of friends whose works asphyxiate your symphony. The lessons students teach about tipping your plinths. The magic of bringing nib to page and penning life with urgency and patience, word by word, with abandon and care. Even though I know it can never silence you, I love this inky trick because it fills the blank before you can, marks up your script, swallows you choking in a page mutating fold, so your cruel barks garble almost seem to say, frame your life with others' lines, and you line your life with love. So my roots as a poet and a multimedia poet are sort of madness, mad, and me. So during my initial struggles with mental illness, writing really was there to save my life through this grounding habit, through this artistic lift. This is a picture of the first notebook I started writing poetry, and I was 15 years old, and the subject is unironically thoughts. This is very serious. These are thoughts. And another big influence on me was Mad magazine. So I'll say a bit because not everybody's familiar with it. So this was an iconic American humor magazine published from 1952 to 2018. Here we have its goofball mascot, Alfred E. Newman, variously schmucking and shape-shifting on the cover. Mad led the vanguard of anti-establishment cartoon satire and humor for decades. The likes of Weird Al, Terry Gilliam, Roger Ebert, and Patti Smith have praised Mad as an influence. And Mad inspired everything from a terrible movie to a decent sketch comedy show to an unsettling Fred Astaire dance routine, actually. Google that, it's really creepy. So I became Mad obsessive at the age of 6, beginning with this issue. I devoured every issue for the next 5 years. Early in my fandom, my uncle gifted me the issues he'd say from his youth, a collection running from the late 50s and early 70s. So yeah, as like an 8-year-old, I had like opinions about Richard Nixon or, like just random stuff from reading Mad. I quit reading Mad in my early teens, thinking I'd outgrown it. I realized in recent years how much it had shaped me. So one of the ways it shaped me is Mad's parody, irony, and satire. Here we see a Mad look at the movies, a Mad guide to home improvement, Mad and Batman. I put this cover up here because, one of the lessons when we're teaching poetry is verbs. Verbs are the engines of our poems. And just look at this cover. They batter Batman, down Murphy Brown, unwind video rentals, crash driver's ed, slap rap music, and put down stand-up comics. So there's a poetry lesson right there in that cover. Also something that influenced me was Mad's use of departments. It sort of, it had its different artists. It had its different approaches. And it kind of showed me that a book didn't have to just be one thing, that a book could be a multitude. And then finally, something I loved about MAD was its reader interaction and participation. I'll say a bit more about the fold-in. I just read an example of a fold-in poem. MAD was very famous for having sung to the tune of, and it was actually MAD magazine, I think, doing some, I can't remember who the composer writer was, but it was actually MAD satire that shaped major kind of like fair use laws in the States, because they had these sung to the tune as, and they were allowed to keep publishing them. And then Al Jaffe had his snappy answers to stupid questions. An example of that is, actually, lovely assistant, could you read one for us? Off the screen there, just because it's too small for me.
It's very small for me as well. Are the matches phony? No, the pre-planned outcomes occur entirely by accident.
Right, that's a good example. No, that's good. One's good. Just give people a little taste, make them want more, leave them wanting more. So again, for me, madness making in me, this sort of mad, mental illness and mad magazine lens has been a big thing for my multimedia poetry. The fluidity of boundaries, hybridity, mashups, etc., and a desire to share this practice with others, that I've gotten so much from writing, from art, that I hope others can find that same sustenance and joy too. So here's some of my projects, some of my books and films, and now I'll share some specific examples. So here we have The End is in the Middle, my recent poetry collection. So writing about memories and experience that have driven my work, but that I haven't been able to face. I was moved by another mental health crisis in January 2017, and I realized that the Mad Fold-In poem was this ideal forum for me to experience these, to write about these memories and these experiences that I'd been circling my whole life as a writer, but hadn't been able to face. And I learned a lot and I gained a lot, but I submitted the final copy edit in February 2022, the same day that I had to ask for a mental health leave from work. And so it always is a process, this mental health journey that we're on. So here is the amazing Al Jaffe. In response to the fold-outs made popular by Playboy and Life, Al Jaffe invented the fold-in. So beginning in 1964 and ending with his retirement at the age of 100, in 2020, Jaffe created fold-ins for the inside-back cover of Mad. Wow, I got goosebumps just saying that. Like, isn't that incredible? So here's an example of a fold-in where we have this abstract expressionist artist making this wonderful picture. And up here it says, which modern artist is most successfully communicating with his audience? And you have an A with a little arrow here and a B with a little arrow here. So the idea is you fold your page so the A and the B meet. And we learn this artist is Charles Schulz. Good grief, it now says at the bottom. So I shared with you a Mad Fold-In poem, so I format it the same way. I put the A with the little arrow, the B with the little arrow. So as you saw when I read the poem, go back one more. Sorry, lovely assistant, equally still lovely. The poem, you get the garble almost seems to say, so the poem's not finished, and now you fold the page, and you get the ending, frame your life with others' lines, and you line your life with love. So I'll share another one here. This one is called Snowflakes, which I'll dedicate to all my fellow snowflakes. With gravity and glee, I'm a snowflake who teaches snowflakes to uniquely blizzard with snowflakes of words. Every myth at its most elemental is a snowflake, tongue-bound, avalanche seed. I teach snowflakes before reading aloud to say CW, content warning, for flurries, visibility, a cold only snowflakes can carry from sky to earth. I teach snowflakes CW, creative warning, contently written forecasts naming our blanket snowflake truth. It's because we will melt that we don't fear the light. Every snowflake, at its most mythic, is an oddity and a mast, a crystal and the drift. You know you're a snowflake if you don't find this wonder abominable. If you find it abominable, you've forgotten You are snow. So if you want to check that out again, I have it on my YouTube channel. Totally blowing up. You've probably seen it already. It has 245 views in 9 months. So that's viral for me. You're all laughing, and so now I'm gonna have to play along like I'm making a joke. Yeah. I have a big family, thankfully. 240 strong. So I got 5 fans. And so here's the book, just so you can see what it looks like. The end is in the middle, and so it also, I should note, you don't have to fold the pages if that's what concerns you. I do provide the post-fold line on the next page. But if you want to fold, I have also made a video, how to fold a fold-in poem. This was a lot of fun. This one's got, well, I don't know if this is better, it's got 319 and 11 months, so I feel like that's better. But it's fun, yeah, it was fun writing this book and making this video. And so I showed you the cover, the end is in the middle. So Richard Wang is a former student of mine, now friend. He's a tattoo artist, he's a visual artist, he's a teacher. So he made this wonderful image on the cover that is a brain on fire. It's one of the motifs of the book. But you can actually fold this cover or turn it over, and the brain on fire becomes a pair of hands cupping the flame. So he worked incredibly hard on that and did a great job. And they also made for me a wonderful portrait of me as Alfred E. Newman. And I don't know, for those of you who are kind of nerds inside, Mad's enemy was Cracked magazine, and so there I am reading my Cracked hidden in my Mad. And this you can also fold over, and it says, my hair now says make madly, and the book now says inked by you. Of course, again, hoping that you'll read these poems and then be inspired to write your own. Okay, so here's Waveform, a short film. So I usually right now, actually, this is for the last 8 years, I've been at TIFF. I'm a big TIFF fan, and last year I saw 52 movies at the festival. But after doing that, I realized after 8 years it was time for a break, and then, to experience other things, like come here and read. But I did write an essay for the Walrus called How TIFF Helped Save My Life. And then it was something that I wanted to kind of continue exploring, and so I adapted it into a movie. And so just to give you a little explanation of what you're about to see, I was taking a class at the Liaison of Independent Filmmakers of Toronto, getting brushed up on the editing software. And while they were showing how you edit your images so you have a matching sort of quality to them, right? So all the shots look the same, using this thing called a Luma waveform. And so this image here from Fellini's La Dolce Vita is what that looks like on the Luma waveform. It looks like the Northern Lights, it looks like a ghost, and so you use that to guide yourself. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh my god, that in itself is a movie. So the waveforms you're about to see are the waveforms taken from the movies that I describe. So I think, yeah, so this will just stand on its own.
Is a waveform. This is a waveform of a video editing tutorial about waveforms. The instructor shows us how this type of waveform measures the luma of a moving image, what some might call its brightness or luminescence. These are different waveforms of the footage I filmed of my friend, barely visible beneath the waving trees of the park. This is a waveform of him telling me how, when his luminescence vanishes, he paces, aching through this park, the waves of depression dragging him under. These are different waveforms of the footage I shot from a subway platform. My friend waving to me as his train pulls in. He admits that, when his brightness dwindles, he can't look down at the tracks without this sickness in him sneering, do it, jump, die. He can't stop his mind from welcoming inside all the ways he could end his life. This is a waveform of the end of a movie that saved his life. It's Fellini's La Dolce Vita. The girl waves across a chasm to the failed hero, her message made indecipherable by the ocean's crashing surf.
That's just a little taste of that. So I made that right at the start of the pandemic, and so I wasn't able to tour with it at any film festivals. But it did play all over the world, and a lot of that was online, and I got to meet some really cool people that way still. So it was still a very worthwhile experience. And so yeah, it was an essay, and then it was a film, and then I actually turned it into a short story. Actually, someone will buy it if I drop it on the ground. I changed it into a short story in my collection, Waveforms and Doom Scrolls. And so here we have Vocational Poems video project. This is something I did for this book, Vocational Poems. Here I use poetic tools and traditions to compose faux, fake, or speculative occasional poems. Imagine the world better and worse. Reflect hopefully and critically on our own moment. For example, the Kermit Kingdom inside Jim Henderson's brutal puppet dictatorship. A dolphin wins an Oscar. That's never happened, but in this book it has. So you might want to check it out. So here's an example of one of these vocational poems. This one's called The Walls. It was composed November 9th, 1989, on the occasion of the commencement of the Global Wall Project. The first phase involved expanding the Berlin Wall and constructing similar walls in 50 cities, including Tokyo, London, and New York. We cannot act until we have all the facts. We will never have all the facts. We act. We expand the wall. We found others. They are living, breathing streets, walls are. This fact arouses us to erect wall after wall. We think only of the walls. We think of the walls as stitches in a blown apart body. The stitches bring this body back together. The walls, embracing the globe, will do the same for us. If not, we will work until every body is walled off from every other body. Think of the thrill we'll feel when we tear down those walls, excited by the sudden wall of bodies, or the joy of building all those walls anew. So I just finished film school when this book was coming out, and so to kind of practice my skills, I decided to not just kind of read the poems and make videos, but adapt them using different YouTube genres. And so here's an example of the YouTube genre of the what do you call it, a cappella singer, you know, kind of singing along with herself. Beautiful, Jessie Revay, beautiful voice. Whiteboard animation, lost footage. This is me as Jim Morrison. So I wrote that poem, The Walls, well before Trump, and so I edited his National Republican speech, so he's reading the poem, The Walls, thinking, like, how ridiculous is this, you know, that this guy would ever, you know what I mean? Like a lot of people just thought he was a joke then, so that's not one that I'm very proud of anymore. One of the poems is about pledging allegiance to the goddess Isis, and so I did that with a bunch of my friends, former students, where we kind of do that genre of reading the poem together. And so I'll share one of these. I guess it explains itself.
My name is Goldie Spencer, and my father, Captain Burl Spencer, was the assistant navigator on the Enola Gay and a member of the crew that refused to drop the atomic bomb on Hiroshima on August 6, 1945. Why did they refuse to drop the bomb? I'm sure they all had their reasons. What I take away from it every day, and what my dad taught me, is the power we hold in our hands. The power to build or destroy. If we want to live a good life, we have to guide those hands with love in our heart. That's why I became a writer. Writing is how I give and live that love. I've written a number of poems about my father and the Enola Gay, but Wide Island is the most popular. It combines an Eastern form, the haiku, with a Western form, the sestina. I call it the sestinaiku. That union of form really speaks to people and speaks to the truth of the moment. I mean, their refusal to drop the bomb. I'd be more than happy to read the poem for you. They were history's page. Guide the Enola Gay's rise into and through clouds with little boy, stick a radioactive gorge in Japanese soil. But they could not soil Hiroshima's untouched page with war's need to gorge, war's desire to rise, each day with a bigger stick, pound flesh into clouds. Tibbets and crew, clouds of war's fog cleared from eyes of soil, saw, as with a stick bug in trees, a page stained in a tome. One foe's rise don't mean slit the gorge of all folks, or gorge the forest with fiery clouds, or to the shelf rise and every book soil with blue so every last page inseparable sticks. What of there no sticks? Monuments like ice gorges in time's sun, pages on traitor saints, clouds of lotus kaiju films, soil for Heartzilla's rise against war's dim rise. Mostly though, yes sirs bloom, stick-ups of hope, scorched soil, the old bastion's gorge stocked with poor weaponized clouds to answer death's page. Please rise, peace, your page rare, a walking stick of cloud, soil born from love's gorge.
So that was a really, that was a cool experience. That was Goldie Spencer was a part of the Senior Citizens Actors Group, where basically you reach out to them and you can find people. And so I've been casting something earlier than that, and she'd auditioned for it. But in the classic stereotypical way, she's like, I never get cast because everybody wants a little old lady. And I was like, interesting, because what was I looking for what I was doing? A little old lady. So as soon as I had this piece, I'm like, Goldie, you got the job. And so that was actually just in her apartment. We had a total blast just hanging out for the afternoon. But it's also funny to see the power of it as if real. I had friends who knew the Vocational Poem Project. They knew what I was doing. They knew all this alt history stuff. But this one in particular, a couple of them would watch it, and then they'd kind of get back almost right away. They're like, man, I read a lot of American poetry. I've never heard of Goldie Spencer. And then they'd be like 2 minutes later, oh God, face palm. I'm sorry, of course, this is all fake. I forgot. So it is neat to see the way we can kind of sculpt with the real. And so I'm just gonna finish here with just a final note on the writing moment, a textbook that I did. So engage poetic tools and traditions to compose prompts guided by 3 principles. That we are all poets and we can all gain from writing poetry. Number 2, practice precedes abstraction. That was one of the things I found as I was pitching this book, was that textbooks always worked with like a lot of explanation, and then here's a little writing. And I thought that's kind of backwards. So my book turns it on its head, where you do a little bit of writing and then you learn what you just did. You do a little bit of writing, and then you learn what you just did. So you kind of have that hands-on practical experience before you get these kind of abstract definitions. And, I found it's been helpful. And then finally, as I wrote the book, just a nerdy insider thing with me is not to abandon the poetic or lyric eye. It's like I tried to write this book as though it was my poetic voice, to kind of see how that would go. I never would have told Oxford that, because of course they would have rejected it in a second. But it was too late, once they signed the contract. And then just the final piece connected to this that I'll recommend is Everything You Need to Write a Poem and How It Can Save a Life. So this is a TEDx talk that I did where I teach at U of T Scarborough. You can check it out and hopefully be inspired to write some of your own poetry. So thank you very much, everybody, for your attention and care, and I look forward to the rest of the afternoon.